Comerford.
I join you, Mr. Minority Leader, in hoping that tonight this chamber endorses this important amendment unanimously. I rise in strong support of amendment number 660 at the Chapter 70 task force filed by the gentleman from Winchester. I rise on behalf, friends, of the parents and caregivers and teachers and municipal officials in Northampton and Amherst and Greenfield and Athol and Royalston and Gill and Montague. What do all of these municipalities have in common? They are all low and declining enrollment schools, and some of them, on top of that, are rural. So my entire district has low and declining enrollment. My entire district is made up of minimum aid schools. None are below effort, all receiving minimum aid. We are on a collision course in the Hampshire-Franklin-Worcester district, and it is wrenching currently. I thank again the gentleman from Winchester, who as chair of the Education Committee has been tireless in his advocacy, understanding that right now, while the Rural Schools Commission says that we should be funding $60 million toward rural aid, and that was years ago, we are still, although the Senate is leading on this, we are still a fraction of what we should be. While we should be funding regional school transportation at 100%, as we promised, we are still lagging behind. Everyone knows that we are lagging behind in our special education numbers. The assumed percentages for special education students are woefully low. The assumed percentages actually is less than every single one of my districts. They all have actual percentages well above the assumed percentages. I am proud of voting for the Student Opportunity Act. It was actually one of the first votes I took when I was elected to serve this chamber. And yet the Chapter 70 formula is not working for the communities I represent. Not now, not once the Student Opportunity Act is fully phased in, it will not work. So I just want to share, because I want to faithfully represent the communities I serve, I want to share with you a little bit about what their current circumstances are, so that my colleagues understand the brutality of minimum aid. Northampton is projected to receive 8.04 million in Chapter 70 funding this year. 15 years ago, Northampton received $7.38 million. I'm going to say this again. Northampton is projected to receive $8.04 million in Chapter 70 funding. 15 years ago, it received $7.38 million. So Northampton's Chapter 70 funding has increased by less than 9% over 15 years. Amherst is projected to receive $6.31 million this year. 15 years ago, Amherst received $6.27 million. $6.31 million this year, $6.27 million 15 years ago. So Amherst Chapter 70 funding has increased by less than 1% over the past 15 years. A 9% increase over 15 years for Northampton, a 1% increase over 15 years for Amherst, coupled with inflation, equals massive cuts in our districts. We cut teachers in Western Massachusetts 10 at a time, and we don't even think about it. I'll talk for a moment about Greenfield. Since 2018, Greenfield has partially defunded their building and health departments. Almost a decade ago, Greenfield ended their replacement schedule for vehicles, and in 2023, Greenfield did not fund any of the police department's capital requests. The school budget is cannibalizing all other parts of that city's budget. And I'll just talk very, very briefly in closing about Orange. The town of Orange, and this is a tragic story, right now their fiscal 25 budget proposal would zero out funding for their library. Orange, the community of Orange, is going to lose its library this fiscal year. It would require their police department to reduce staffing across shifts, lay off 2 officers, It's going to require that their fire department reduce staffing to a point where they may not have enough people at any given time to enter a building. They're contemplating not having enough people to actually enter a burning building. And one Orange Select Board member wrote, "Brutal is not the word." Brutal is not the word. The town manager said, "We are not actually chewing down to the bone, we are gnawing on our bones in this budget." And Chapter 70 is the problem. The pain in the town of Orange, the city of Northampton, the town of Amherst, throughout my district is actually too much. We cannot do this anymore, which is why, as the gentleman from Winchester said in the Ways and Means hearing, he and I and others talked with the administration about the need to open the Chapter 70 formula, to look at the ways in which the Student Opportunity Act is not working. It's not working for my entire district. It's not working for 2/3 of the minimum aid schools that cannot pay their bills. They will not survive. And I am not being hyperbolic, although I think my friends here know that I can tend toward hyperbole. This is a crisis in our Commonwealth. This commission, envisioned by our friend from Winchester, is absolutely what's needed, but we have to go further. I agree with the minority leader. These towns are spending every single last dollar they have, bumping up against Proposition 2.5 limits, and they're still not able to fund their schools. And when the state does not live up to its responsibilities, divisions play out in the local levels. And I will tell you, in every single town I represent, there is acrimony, there is division. There are local leaders resigning from committees. They cannot do it anymore. We must bear the burden for them and do the job to crack open this formula. And that is what I am seeing and hearing and feeling throughout my district. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I'm going to yield now. But I promise you, with our friends around this chamber, I will not rest until we right these wrongs, because the Student Opportunity Act was a generational good, and we can do better for the rest of the school districts in our Commonwealth. Thank you so much, Mr. President.